Okay. Hi guys, I'm Anna.
I'm Claire.
And I'm Ava.
And this is the first episode of our podcast. And we don't have a name yet or an intro, but if you guys like it, then comment down below and we will come back more professional. Because it's harder to think of things than you would think it is.
And it is also our first video. So.
Yeah. So, today we're going to be talking about the Bermuda Triangle. And you may be wondering, why are you going to talk about the Bermuda Triangle? Well, okay, so in practice last week, the other day, we do warm-up laps.
Which are death.
Yeah, we just run a mile before we start practice. And then, so we get back, and then we're, like, kneeling on the ground waiting to do our stretches.
We're waiting for some of the other people to finish running.
Yeah, okay. And then, so Ava's right next to me, and then she just looks over at me and she's like, "What do you think is in the Bermuda Triangle?" And I'm like,
she looks at me like,
"What?"
She hates me.
And then so we just kind of blow it off. I'm like, okay, Ava. But then I guess we're thinking about it later, and we're like, what is in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle? And then so we decided that since I already have this channel where there are some conspiracy theory videos that I made, why not make a podcast about the Bermuda Triangle with Claire?
Because you guys were going to have me as a guest.
And then Claire got triggered, so Claire is the main event.
Yes. And we spent about 20 to 30 minutes after practice just Googling it because we were very intrigued.
Yeah, because we don't have any background info at all. We just
kinda
did a bunch of research.
Triangle equals death.
So yeah.
Okay, so we have Googled a lot, and what I found is that the Bermuda Triangle is at least 500,000 miles, but some people say it's about like 1.5 million miles, but it's not.
But it's like also really sketch because everywhere you go says it's like in a different place.
But this is also considering that it's like if you put the world out like flat, like we know the world is circular, but if you put it...
No, it's not.
This is a flat Earth video. We got your neck. You got our view on our. You gave us a view on our flat Earth video. Sorry. The dog treated my body.
Well, if you want to be mathy about it, it is technically 470,080 square miles.
I don't even know how big that is.
It's like...
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's, if you know where Florida is, it's like from Florida to the Bermuda down to like Puerto Rico-ish.
The Bermuda.
To the
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so the first instance of the Bermuda Triangle being brought up was by author Vincent Gaddis in 1964, and then inspired by his, outwardness, Charles Berlitz, a different writer, popularized the Bermuda Triangle and really made it pop in his book, The Bermuda Triangle, which was published in 1974, and it just outlined the possibility, or not even the possibility, the fact that Atlantis was in the Bermuda Triangle and different just sketchy ideas of the Bermuda Triangle.
Yes. And Atlantis is like a... Thanks. It's like, I don't want to say Greek story, like legend. But some people think that, or one of the theories is that Atlantis exists under, like in the Bermuda Triangle, like, that area. And then so it would be messing with the people's compasses, because like that's a fact that the Bermuda Triangle like messes up people's compasses. Either that or people like in Atlantis are literally like bringing down ships. Yeah, that's one theory.
And going off of that, there is a theory that underneath the Bermuda Triangle there is a giant crystal pyramid, and it's supposedly 2,000 meters underwater, and it is 300 meters wide and 200 meters tall, which is 3 times the size of the Giza pyramids or the Great Pyramids in Giza, which is like really big. And there are supposedly 2 holes on top, which funnel fast-moving water to form big waves and possibly whirlpools that could bring ships down or just like topple ships. And this idea was first kind of brought about by Dr. Ray Brown in the 1980s, who claims that he saw the giant crystal pyramid while he was scuba diving, but he claims that his photographic proof was destroyed in a storm.
How
So,
convenient.
Yeah, it's kind of sketchy.
And especially only if one person saw it. That's
Mhm.
hard to believe that other people believe that too. Like,
Yeah, and it's kind of surprising because a lot of scientists kind of accept it and are interested in this, but I mean, if there's no photographic proof, there's not really proof.
Also, you usually don't go scuba diving alone in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
Like, you don't usually go that far out and just, like, be alone. So it's kind of a weird not to have somebody else to confirm his story.
yeah, so it sounds like a kind of a sketchy like cover up,
Yeah.
which we'll get to later.
Yeah, and okay, so the next part is the Bimini Road, which is a linear formation of square stone blocks in a straight line. That's what linear means. But basically, tens or hundreds of thousands of years ago, there wasn't any civilization in the Bermuda Triangle in the Bahamas. So it's kind of sketchy that these rocks that look like weathered and old have been down there for so long. So some scientists did some radiocarbon dating, which showed that the rocks were 2,000 to 4,000 years old, which is very surprising because that dates back pretty far. And yeah, it's just very interesting. But apparently some scientists that are critics of this theory have claimed that the road is actually just beach rock that is cracked into geometric patterns, which explains why the stones fit so perfectly and just work.
That sounds like they're just kind of, I don't know, like scared, you know, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just the beach rock.
They're calling.
Don't worry, fam. Okay, so 2 theories that were like very accepted at their time because they were like sciencey, or one was the methane gas, and then so they found out that on the ocean floor there are like pockets of methane gas, like big pockets of methane gas. Yeah, and then and then like, so then there was a big pocket like under the Bermuda, where the Bermuda Triangle is, and then so the bubbles would come up and then make the water a lot less dense, which could sink ships in. And then so that was like widely accepted. But I saw this video, not saying either one are like definitely right, but this video said that the methane gas bubbles wouldn't be able to pull a ship under because the bubbles would literally just be coming up, and the density difference wouldn't like make that much of a difference. And also like that would not drag planes down. And then
most of the ships that were found weren't drowned. Most of them were just kind of left alone with nobody in them.
oh yeah, that's the sketchy part too. That like
They're trying to explain something that didn't really happen as much as other things.
yeah, because the boats were like, in most of the occurrences, the boats were like completely intact and like everything was intact. The people were just missing. But okay, Magnus, can you please be quiet?
No.
As found in things like the Mary Celeste or like the USS Cyclops, like they're left and nobody's in them, but like nothing's taken. So we don't think it's somebody who just stole stuff because the ship is literally just sitting there.
Yeah. And then the other one that was like accepted is rogue waves, which are just very, very big waves that are not tsunamis. They like don't reach the shore, but they're just like massive waves. And then so that was an explanation, but
Which take down planes because they're so tall. But they don't
that's
actually.
one big wave.
It's like, yeah.
Like almost like a tsunami, but not.
Yeah.
Alright. So, some other theories that we have. Well, there was one about Noah's Ark, being found in the Bermuda Triangle, which is very interesting because some people say that his ark is actually in Turkey, but I mean,
Isn't that like a biblical thing?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay, I was pretty sure.
yeah, it's a biblical thing. So basically, this guy is called on by God to build this ark to save like 2 kinds of every animal so they can reproduce, and then he just wipes out everyone else because they're so sinful. So basically, there's a theory that Noah and his ark, or I guess just Noah's ark, because I don't think Noah's still hanging out, but they're like in the Bermuda Triangle. But when I looked it up, all I could find was Noah's Ark Water Park, which is interesting because there's another kind of similar theory that Disney, like Walt Disney, was put or frozen in a freezer under Disney World. So when people look up Disney Frozen, instead of finding Walt Disney like frozen under Disney, they find like
because they don't want
movie.
that's like obviously
Yeah.
bad. Like you don't want the kids seeing that.
Exactly, and they don't want to like people to think that Walt Disney actually is frozen under there because like I don't know, it could be bad press and just.
And it's like a
different
conspiracy.
issues.
It's like. It's just like they don't want to think that Walt Disney was like a conspirator or anything. Like
Yeah.
freezing your head and then potentially coming back later is like a conspiracy thing. It's not like a normal thing that normal people do.
Yeah.
I wonder if you went through like pages and pages of Google, if there would be something. Because do you think they actually like put it online, like as somebody could have posted?
Well, everybody
something
can
like
put anything online.
that? That's
Yeah.
true.
True. Yeah, but anyway, the Noah's Ark Water Park kind of took over all of my Google searches that like were searching for this theory that Noah's Ark was actually in the Bermuda Triangle.
Do you have any idea of like why that would mess with other ships or planes?
Well,
Just wondering.
I mean, not really. I mean, I guess you could say that, like, since Noah and his ark were such a, like, spiritual thing in the Bible and from God, like, maybe God is having some impact on these different ships. I mean, it wouldn't really make sense, but, I mean,
Thanks,
you never
please
know.
don't do that. Sorry. Sorry.
You're
Okay.
right. Yeah.
I don't know much about the Bible.
Me neither.
My family's Christian.
Can you explain Noah's Ark to me?
Can you explain the Bible?
Chapter by
Well,
chapter,
these
Christian.
Christians-
No, can you explain
Well,
Noah's Ark?
Sure
I did.
What? Explain it again.
Well,
That's
the
kind of
podcast
irrelevant.
already knows, yeah.
Yeah, just watch our podcast, you noob.
No, wait. Like, the
Let's talk
actual...
about-
Okay, so basically a bunch of people were like sinning and not doing the right thing. So God called on Noah to build this big ark that could hold 2 kinds of every animal so they could reproduce.
Oh.
And so Noah and his family were saved, but everyone else was wiped out in this giant flood and they all died. So after 40 days and 40 nights, Noah found land and then like all the water went away and basically they just got out and reproduced in the world. The world that we have now is a product
It's an
of
actual, like
like a
an ark.
no,
An
like
ark
a
is a
boat. No, like
Ark sign.
oh
An ark is a very big boat.
yeah,
Oh.
like a wooden ark.
This is why I need to start reading the Bible more.
Better get on
I
that.
go to church and read my Bible.
That's
Yeah.
so bad.
Okay, now let's talk about aliens.
Yay!
Yeah.
Okay, so we kind of mentioned this earlier, but the thing about the boats just going. So there's this island called the island of Azores, and the island of Azores is basically closer to Europe than it is to Florida, which is where the Bermuda Triangle is centered.
We'll try to put a
centered.
picture if we can.
Yeah. So the fact that these ships disappear in the Bermuda Triangle and then they just show up in the island of Azores, it's kind of weird that they just kind of, there's nothing wrong with them, there's no people, nothing is stolen. So we were thinking that maybe aliens pick them up and move them over because you can't exactly just like take them through all the water because it's so rough
Yeah,
that
and,
things
like,
would get messed up.
obviously you don't. I don't know, because when you think of aliens, you're like, oh, poo poo, aliens.
Yeah.
What? But But like when you hear like what Ava said, like, oh, the ship just disappeared here and then it reappeared here, or disappeared here and then reappeared here, and all intact, just with no crew. It's like aliens.
Especially if you're talking about those big waves.
Yeah, and like, cause that if that happens, if that actually happened, that basically eliminates like the rogue waves, the methane bubbles, the wormhole, I don't know, a lot of things. What was the other evidence we had for aliens?
Well, the pyramid could be
Oh yeah.
evidence because who was going to build like a giant crystal pyramid? And it's not something that would normally just show up
And
like
aliens
geologically.
Aliens are like aliens. They could breathe underwater. They could swim. They could do whatever they wanted to. We don't know anything about them.
We can make a video about aliens later because I really don't understand much.
Yeah. And also, with the aliens and the disappearances on the ships, but everything still being there, aliens don't really have a use for what we have except for, like, humans, because aliens' technology is just so much... I mean, like, I'm not saying that I believe in that, but
This is not an ad.
no,
Aliens, we want you.
from what I know about what people say or think about aliens, like, their technology is just so much greater than ours, so they don't really have any use for our worldly possessions besides like ourselves and our souls, so they can use it for like experiments and stuff.
Yeah, because the definition of an alien is just an organism with more like multicellular, like not just bacteria, but from another place.
And
then so obviously they'd be curious more about us than like our things. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the perfect place to do it is where humans can't breathe, which is in the ocean, where we can't see
Smack
them.
dab in the middle.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so should we talk about our original ideas now?
Yep.
Alright, so now here are some of our original ideas. We're not exactly sure how original they are, but like you never are. You never know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's about aliens, basically.
What?
Not really.
Oh. Well, Area 51 is about aliens.
Not necessarily.
But
Mostly.
human trafficking first.
That would
If
be
it
my
goes off
first.
with aliens.
Okay. This is not about aliens. Okay, so our original ideas are basically like the basic conspiracy theories, which are like the government, but not necessarily the Illuminati. And also, okay. When we say the government, like we don't mean like the Trump administration, like what you think of when you hear government, but also not necessarily like the Illuminati, but just if you can imagine that. I don't know.
Yeah, like secret
Imagine
operations that go on inside the government that, you know, they have specific, you know, things that they can't talk about.
Yeah,
like on
just
the
like-
X-Files and stuff.
Yeah, just things that like we as civilians don't know, because obviously we don't know a lot of things. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you were the government, and okay, so like Area 51 is a thing, like that's confirmed. It's actually a thing.
it's a
Area
place.
51 is a place, but like we don't know what's going on there. And then so like there are conspiracies about like all the sketchy things that could possibly go on there. But the gist of it is just that the government is hiding it from us. And then so imagine if you were the government and you were making an Area 51-esque area, but not even telling us, like we don't even know that it exists. If you made it on land, then people could find it. So why not make it right in the middle of the ocean?
Where they say not to go because then you're gonna disappear or die.
Exactly. And then also, nobody's better at getting rid of evidence than the government. So if when boats show up there and just disappear and the people are all gone, it's like the government could have just killed them off, and then also the news people have things to do with the Bermuda Triangle, so the government could influence the news people and make up these theories that people will believe, like methane gas and rogue waves.
Distract us with all these different theories.
Yeah, because something sketchy could be going on there. And then also, like Ava said, now the whole area is just like sketch, and people are less likely to go there. First of all, they're less likely to go there, so the government can like do their thing in secret. And then also, if people do go there, because it also makes us really curious, which I don't know, kind of backfired a bit maybe. Okay, but then when people do go there and get and disappear, it's like, oh, it's the Bermuda Triangle. Like, that's just what happens.
Yeah. So another theory that I have about the Bermuda Triangle is that the government kind of made up the Bermuda Triangle as a way to hide any illegal, I guess, human trafficking. I mean, maybe not.
Or other operations.
Yeah, other operations, because I'm not saying that the government, human traffics, but just different.
It could be a private organization.
Yeah, there could be a private organization, like, paying off someone to hide their secret. Just, what's the better place to illegally human traffic than a place where people mysteriously disappear? Like, oh, Johnny disappeared the other day in, like, the Bermuda Triangle.
It's
Oh,
like,
wow.
oh, the Bermuda, that happens.
Yeah, so they just think that he's at the bottom of the ocean somewhere, but really he could be in, like, some remote village in Africa or something, you know.
Which is maybe the reason we're not going more in depth with these things and the government isn't trying to figure out what's happening down there is because they're not wanting anybody to figure out what's happening.
Yeah, it's like,
down
who's
there.
going to try? Like, us in our little boat?
But we're too scared. And we don't have enough.
Also, what I found that was sketch was that in some of the disappearances, like, there was this one example of a couple who, like, just literally went out on a boat and disappeared. And it said that they stopped searching after a couple of weeks. Like, they just kind of gave up. I was like, that's kind of sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're like, oh, yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
No need to look.
Just go away, it's fine.
Yeah.
And over 1,000 people have gone lost, but yet nobody knows where they are, what happened to them. And there's no, like, dead bodies washing up ashore places. Like, there's been nothing. So, where do those all go?
Yep.